Hey parents, it's Mr. Jim here. This back to school season, give your kids the tools they need to have fun while they learn with Osmo. Osmo's Reading Adventure Learn to Read game is an interactive tool for kids 5 to 7 that help them practice and develop reading fundamentals. Because it's never too early to fall in love with reading. Visit playosmo.com to check out the Reading Adventure new reader kit today. That's playosmo.com. Osmo, learning well played. Hey friends, it's Mr. Jim and welcome back to Kid Short Stories. Have you heard about our book that is coming out this fall? Yes, oh my goodness, I cannot wait for you to be able to hold this hardcover book in your hands, and there's some really awesome rewards as well for this pre-ordering that begins in just a few weeks. So have your parents click on the link for Mr. Jim books down in the show notes below so that we know how many books to order in our first run of printing. Are you guys ready for today's story? Me too, let's go! Lincoln and his family had just finished a delicious dinner. As he helped clear off the table of all the dishes and silverware and cups, now it was time for family game night. They loved playing games together as a family after dinner. What about you and your family? What do you like to do after dinner? Maybe do some art projects together or a game? Well, Lincoln and his family had a ton of fun that night. And as it got later and later, Lincoln yawned and stretched and asked if he could go to bed. That's how tired he was. I think if you're that tired at bed, it means that you've had a really, really great day. As Lincoln was getting ready for bed, he brushed his teeth, get all those sugar bugs off, got his pajamas on, and walked inside of his bedroom and heard some tapping on the window. "What's that sound?" asked Lincoln. His parents looked out the window and said, "Oh my, there must be a very cold weather front coming in. It almost looks like sleet." Sleet is that kind of icy rain that comes down when it's in between rain and snow. It was pretty unusual this time of year for there to be sleet there, and that's why Lincoln's family was so surprised to see it. After he gave everybody a goodnight hug, Lincoln closed his eyes and fell asleep. The next morning, he woke up shivering. "Oh, wow. I thought this blanket was warmer than this." As Lincoln sat up, he realized he could see his breath inside of his room. That is not normal. It usually does not get that cold inside of his house. As he called out to his family to see what was going on, "Why is it so cold in here?" shouted Lincoln. His parents came walking around the corner, huddled in blankets themselves. "Lincoln, we're not sure what's going on, but it is very cold even inside of our house. Look out your window." While Lincoln was sleeping the night before, something crazy happened outside. The window was very foggy. It was kind of hard to see outside to what they were talking about. So he rubbed the window to make a little spot that he could peek through, and holy smokes! Everything had been covered in ice. Lincoln ran to the front door and opened it up. Whoosh! He was greeted with a blast of very cold wind. "Oh, wow! Should have brought my blanket with me." As he wrapped his arms around himself like he was giving himself a hug to try and keep warm, he saw the sky. I think that's what his parents were talking about. He couldn't believe it. The sky had been covered in some kind of dome of ice. Yes, I don't know what happened, but somehow overnight, across their whole city, it was like enclosed in a giant dome of ice. Do you know what a dome is? Can you imagine a snow globe? Yeah, a snow globe is like there might be something inside, and then when you shake it up, the snow rattles around, and a snow globe. Somehow overnight, his city had turned into some kind of ice globe. But he could see that the ice on the globe was getting thicker and thicker by the second. "Oh no," said Lincoln. If that ice keeps growing, what if it completely freezes our whole town into ice? And yikes, that will be super duper cold. I cannot let that happen." Lincoln ran upstairs to grab his walkie-talkie. "Shh, guys, are you there?" He was calling out to some of his neighborhood friends that also had some walkie-talkies. "Shh, Lincoln, holy, but it's cold." "Shh, yeah, I know it's cold. Put some warm clothes on and meet me in my front yard right now. Over and out." Shh. Lincoln and a few of his friends dressed very warmly. They had many layers of warm clothes and pants and socks and boots and hats and gloves and scarves and everything that you would need to go outside in a frozen world. "Friends, we're running out of time," said Lincoln. "We need to find a way to melt through the ice on the dome in the sky, or else we're doomed. Do any of you have ideas of how we could do that?" asked Lincoln. One of his friends raised his hand and said,
"Well, what if we made a fire? We could build a ginormous fire that melts the ice."
"That's a good idea," said Lincoln. "I'm just not sure if our fire will be tall enough to melt the ice on the dome. Any other ideas?" One of his other friends cautiously raised his hand and said, "What about a flamethrower?" "A flamethrower?" shouted Lincoln in excitement. "Yes, I've seen those flamethrowers where, I don't know how to make one, but it launches the flame out and kind of shoots it out. I wonder if we could aim it at the ice and maybe it would melt a hole in it and let out all this cold air." "I love it. Let's make a flamethrower." "Holy smokes, that sounds like an incredibly dangerous idea that you should definitely not try at home." But Lincoln and his friends, they were determined to save their city from this ice globe that was freezing them by the second. "Hand me that garden hose over there," shouted Lincoln. "Oh, and I need those spoons. Give me those spoons over there." They were building something that would hopefully help melt all of that ice. But they were running out of time because that ice was getting closer and closer. It was getting closer to freezing the entire town into a giant ice ball. "Okay, we don't have any more time. Everyone, help me turn this thing on." Lincoln carried it. It was really heavy, and he pointed it up at the sky. "All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. The sound of the flame was very loud and bright and hot. Instantly, it melted a hole up in the sky. Remember, the sky had this big ice dome all around them, and their giant flamethrower melted part of that ice to let some of the cold air out. "It's working! Keep it going!" The rest of the afternoon, Lincoln and his friends spent melting that giant ice dome that was up in the sky that was trying to freeze them. And by the end of the day, all the ice had melted. Lincoln and his friends had saved the day. And even though this is the end of that story, I think it's just the beginning of their amazing adventures that lie ahead of protecting their town. The end. Great job. You listened all the way to the end, and you know what time it is. It's time for Kid Shout-Outs. I want to say hey to Henry from Alabama, Annabelle and Luke from Indiana, Patrick and Alton from California, Billy and Clive from Los Angeles, Cooper from North Carolina, Juniper from Traverse City, Michigan, Avery and Ellis from Washington, and Jamie from Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. I'm so glad that you're all in the Kid Short Stories family. And on the spy team, we could not stop Dr. Stinky Breath and his crew without you, my friends. Well, you have a super duper day, and I will see you next time. Bye!